Hello and welcome to another segment of Intersections, Policy, Program, and Practice Exchange. My name is Elisa Gwilliam, and today I have the pleasure to be talking with Executive Director of Mental Health America Duchess Andrew O'Grady, and Professor of Psychology and Director of the Center for Aging and Disability Policy at Mount St. Mary College, and co-founder of NOAR, the National Organization of Adult Addiction and Recovery, Dr. Larry Force. Dr. Force, do you want to start us off today?
I'm going to start us off by recognizing my dear friend and colleague, Andrew O'Grady.
All right.
Andrew is Andrew is the Executive Director of Mental Health America Duchess. And at this point, as he said, he'll take it from here, and then I'll come back and introduce Kerry. Andrew?
Sounds good. Really excited to have our first time second guest. Did I say that right? First time having a guest for the second time on here. And Carrie was a wonderful guest the first time, and she's in Australia. And I can't wait to hear what's going on over there as it relates to, walking away from the shame. That's what she focuses on. She found that telling stories and having other people tell stories about their recovery, about anything that might feel shameful to them, really breaks the stigma down. And that's what we've been all about here at MHA in Dutchess County, about breaking down the stigma, making it okay to talk about things. Because you know what, when we're all honest and open, you find that really people wouldn't shame you and people would embrace your courage. And it can probably change your whole outlook and everything. And I'd like to hear more about that from Kerry when she tells us her story again. But now I'll turn it back over to my former college professor.
You keep bringing that up, okay? I don't remember.
I know you were only 17 years old and just started.
I was 17, and I think you had the world record for the most absences, but I don't want to go there.
I did what I wanted to do to have a really great 4-year experience.
Right, but you know how to throw a three-pointer from the basketball court, but that's another story.
That's right.
So look, it's great to be here, and Kerry, thank you so much. We are really glad that you rejoined us. Let's not forget, we started off, we were doing local, and then we started to do state, and then we started to do nationwide, and here we are in Australia for the second time. Yay. So we are so proud and so happy that you're here. I'm a big believer, if you've heard me before, about connections, and I use LinkedIn as my favorite go-to platform, and that's how Kerry and I became connected. And she came on, I don't know, about 6 months ago, and we continued that connection. And the material that she puts out there is just so powerful. So it's my pleasure and honor to introduce Kerry Atherton. And I want to talk a little bit about what she has here on her LinkedIn page. Founder, speaker, events, stories of hope worldwide. And if you look behind her, that's what it's all about, stories of hope. But the other thing that she's very public about is the fact that it says 39 years sober. And she talks about addiction, well-being, mental health, relationships, and suicide prevention. So Mental Health First Aid Australia in Queensland, Australia. And Kerry, we are so glad you're here. And I want to circle back at some point to what Andrew said, but I'll weave that into our discussion. So please, Kerry, welcome. And if you can give everybody an idea of you, what a day in the life looks like, and what's happened since the last time we've had the opportunity to speak. And I just want to say one other thing. 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Monday in New York, 8 o'clock a.m. Tuesday in Australia. So thank you for being here at 8 o'clock in the morning.
And if you can tell us who wins the Monday Night Football game tonight, that would be really good.
That would be great.
And thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here again. I had such a great time last time. And 8 o'clock is usually late for most people that live where I live. But my personality type being a super creative who stays up late at night, I'm not really a morning person. So some people, a lot of people listening to this will understand that. So which question will I answer first?
Well, I think maybe you can give people an idea. Well, I think the reality that what's in everyone's mind is doing business during this world of COVID. You know, before we came on, you started to give us a little bit of a profile, and all of us were like, oh my God. So maybe you could talk a little bit about, you know, COVID and also the work that you're doing in this new arena.
Yeah, well, it's definitely changed. So COVID hit us the week that I launched my second book, actually. And as I was sitting on the stage with all my authors who have been previous speakers at Stories of Hope and written story for that book, we were hearing stories of people in boats trapped at sea with COVID. And none of us in Australia really, well, I don't think anybody in the world had any idea what was in store. And we went into lockdown a week later. So it was probably the worst time to launch a book. But we went into lockdown as well as the rest of the world, but we were hearing from Australia just shocking reports of what was going on in the States and in the UK. And we were all just, you know, really so heartbroken for the rest of the world, because even though we were in lockdown, we were not nearly touched like you were over there in America and they were in the UK. But that was last year, and this year it's a different story. The Delta virus the strain has gotten into New South Wales, and that's one of the states, the biggest states in Australia, our country here. And I'm living in Queensland, and we have a premier who is adamant that she wants to keep COVID out for I don't know how long, but it's almost as if we're locked away from the rest of Australia. So we think we're up to 80% vaccination in New South Wales now. They've hit probably 1,500 cases a day, but everyone is in forced lockdown, and the trajectory for when they open back up, they're starting to open back up now, is that COVID's just going to go like wildfire down there. So that's a concern for Australia. So now Australia is starting to go through similar to what you all went through. And it's been hard for me personally, because my son and daughter-in-law and my two brothers, who I adore, are in Sydney. So last year, when we went into lockdown and this happened, I mean, I'd been used to getting on a plane for 1 hour and 20 minutes and going down to see my family. And that was one of my coping strategies. My family is really my happy place, and just having a bit of a break away from what I do here was always going down to Sydney. So that was something that used to keep me mentally well, and then I couldn't do that anymore. So last year I suffered with my mental health, as did many, many people. And I really came to a decision that I needed to do something different, because my events had come to a close, my local events that I had run for over 3 years. For 7 months, I couldn't run any local events. And so I decided that because mental health rates were going through the roof, we've actually had now in the last 3 weeks the highest ever recorded calls to the helplines like Lifeline, Black Dog Institute, Beyond Blue, since they began years ago. So the rate here in Australia was around 1 in 4 battling with mental health last year. And now the calls to the helplines have doubled. So that's more of an indication to me that we have something like more like 1 in 2 people seriously going through mental health problems.
Wow.
So I attended a mental health first aid Australia course, which is now run in about 12 different countries. And I just loved it so much. And the lady that trained me was one of the authors in my books. and she went on to be a mental health first aid trainer. And I thought that's something that I can do to upskill and to also help the world around me and help my own mental health. So I became a trainer. And so this time when we're in really hard lockdown now, that's been something that's given me a bit of hope for the future, and being able to keep my mind occupied and just given me a purpose and enabled me to know that I'm able to do something for the world around me and the people that are struggling in the world around me.
That helps you to feel a little bit better about an outcome when you know you're helping other people. That's for sure. Yeah, your calls to helpline going up so much is really important. It's important to capture data and have some type of proof that there is an uptick in mental health needs. And it's not great when there is an uptick, but it does help, especially in our country, and I'm sure there, with people recognizing that that need is there, it's real, and we should fund it. And I'm hoping, if anything comes out of it, that happens. In this country, Mental Health America, National Mental Health America, is our national affiliate, and they have a screening tool on their website for depression and anxiety and more serious mental health concerns. And one thing they found as COVID started and progressed was the number of people taking those surveys just drastically went through the roof. And you're not going to take a survey like that unless you're feeling depressed or unless you're feeling anxious. And that they've been able to use that data to kind of prove that, it's not just COVID it's isolation that has an impact on people. It exacerbates the symptoms that people have. So I really feel for you in Queensland, and especially when your family is elsewhere. And, this is nice, this Zoom stuff, but it certainly doesn't, it doesn't stop. It doesn't, supersede a hug of some kind with your family member. So I'm sorry you're going through that. Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.
Talk to us about things that have occurred professionally since the last time we got together. You talked about the publishing of your second book. You talked about, some of the things that you're doing with this idea of first aid and mental health first aid. Talk to us a little bit about that, because the thing that I love about your LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn page, I have all of my students sign up to LinkedIn. And one of the things that when I get into the addiction component in the theories of social casework, which will be in about 3 weeks, I'm going to direct them to you, as far as connecting with you. Because I think that, because, can I say this, not just because you're here, but I think that you could walk away and say, you know what? Yeah, I'm an author. Yeah, I'm a wife. I'm a mother, but you're also an influencer. I mean, you've developed a really nice presence on social media. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that, like what's been going on, what's different now. And then, as I said, I want to circle back to what Andrew said before, because it's the second time today this theme has come up in different arenas. And I want to go back and ask all of you about it. But Curry, please.
Well, when I could not meet in person with all my local people here to do the events, which was really the purpose that I founded 4 years ago now, I think, and I was only thinking about this yesterday, because when you are pivoting or changing things, it's easy to sit back and kind of get lost and think, where next? What are my strengths? And there's always that imposter syndrome, that voice that tries to remind you about your weaknesses and the things that you can't do. But yesterday I was sitting, really giving some, deep thought, prayer, meditation into direction for the future. And I thought, what is my greatest skill? And I really identified that my greatest skill has always been connecting. And so last year, when I couldn't meet and connect the community and gathered the local community up together, and seeing the suffering around the world, I decided that I wanted to do something that could affect everybody in a positive way. And so I started Stories of Hope Worldwide. So you see Stories of Hope Australia here, but I've started Stories of Hope Worldwide, and that's an online platform where I've been interviewing people from all different countries around the world and just gathering together some amazing stories. And I haven't released that as an actual series yet, so that's something that I'm working on, but I have about 20 to 25 stories from different people around the world. And they're all amazing stories of hope. And a few of the people are people that have come out the other side of hardcore addictions. And as we're all passionate about the addiction space, because I think the thing that we need to remember is at a time when people are struggling, people scramble for escapism. And alcohol sales have gone through the roof here in Australia, and I presume everywhere else. And I know drug addiction, food addiction, alcohol addiction, as I just said, people just want to escape from reality. They don't want to sit with the pain. They want to get away from the pain. So living through this thing called COVID sober is a hard gig. But I think it's wonderful that we're able to gather together to show people that it is possible. Yesterday, I had a really hard day. I've been a bit sick for the last few weeks and trying to come to a decision now about whether I continue my in-person events next year on such a regular basis, because COVID has changed everything and people are really reticent to not come out anymore. And I just am trying, I've just lost my train of thought. That doesn't usually happen.
You were talking about next year, and yesterday having the time to rethink some of this about what next year will look like, especially as a result of the COVID experience.
Yeah. But I just think that more than anything, I want to be able to show people that you can go through. That was right. Yesterday I was sitting with pain, emotional pain. And I just had the realization, as I've had many times before, and I've had to call on this, that emotional pain itself will not kill us. And when we can come to that point, we know that even though we'll go through hard times, we don't have to reach for an escape if we can just sit through the pain. Each time we sit through the pain, we just grow that little bit more. And it was an emotionally painful day yesterday, but today it's a different story, and there's always a new day around the corner.
That's very true. I hope that you realize that just like anybody you have met who's told you your story, you would be available to them if the phone rings. I know you would be. So I just know that you should know, and I know you do, that you could call any one of those people as well, or anybody else you know, and they'll be there for you. So it's hard. We tend to be there for other people, but we don't always feel comfortable reaching out ourselves for help. But sitting with it also is a very good experience that can make you stronger, but sometimes it can be overwhelming.
The interesting thing is that, you're talking about yesterday. I had an experience like that on Friday night. I was down. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I was down, and I'm sitting around thinking, and I think part of it is because I had a conversation with somebody on Friday that's involved in another project. And I asked him, what are you doing for this weekend? And he said, I'm going down to my town that I grew up in. And he said, I'm going to meet the town historian. I'm going to the library because I'm writing a book on that small town that I grew up in. And I'm thinking, you know what? I need to reconnect with something like that. Sounds great. I mean, it
Yeah.
gets them up in the morning. It's purpose and meaning. So now this is what's percolating in my brain. What comes up is one word: reset. I need to reset. I need to, look out there, look around, see what the landscape looks like, and then pick an area and really get into it. I have a former student that had to do a project from one of my classes, and her roommate had MS. And she did the whole project on MS. And then when she finished it, she gave it to her roommate as a gift. I didn't have to tell her, hey, listen, you got to get up and finish it. She was on fire. And I started to think, what is it that can get me on fire again? And I'm still looking around. I mean, I know I want to do something, but in what area of my life, either personal or professional, to be able to really, jump into. So I'm sitting there, and I was gonna text Andrew, okay, and then I didn't, because I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, all right, so I'm gonna pray, I'm gonna meditate, and then I looked at my laptop and I realized that Billions had just put out some new series. Okay, this is Billions, the showcase series, Showtime. And I sat there and I watched 3 episodes of it. And I got to tell you, I felt better. Okay, I felt it was like somebody gave me, like an antidepressant. I felt better after I watched it, and since that time I've been back in the groove. But what I wanted to say, and I mentioned this a couple times tonight already, I want to go back to something that Andrew said. You talked about the increase, Kerry, and addictions and self-abusive behavior and things like that. Alyssa and I were involved in a discussion earlier today in another world, another arena, dealing with elder abuse. And boom, elder abuse is expanding too during this time, because there's not as many eyes on it. People are desperate, finances are down, the whole bit. But one of the people on the video cast was a graduate student. So my friend Sharon Mary Cohen she's executive director of Jewish Family Services in a neighboring county, and she has 4 graduate interns, and she embedded them into this discussion. And this guy, early on in his career, raises his hand and starts talking about the issue of shame. Now, whether it be the shame of, elder abuse, why don't people report or whatever, but the first thing right out of the gate, Andrew starts talking about the shame issue, and I want to talk with you about, because you're very, very open about, this is who I am, stories of hope, this is who they are. Talk to us about the dynamic of shame, about how you go about addressing it professionally, working with people, like you said, worldwide, but there is so many common themes regarding addiction and recovery.
Well, it's very interesting that you talk about this, because I just put a post up yesterday about shame on LinkedIn, and it's very short, and I'll read to you what I said, because it really explains what my message. And my message was walking out of shame. Working as a counsellor and event host, many people come to me and talk about their shame, but I want to talk about their courage. It takes great courage to open up and share their deepest secrets with someone, let alone someone they hardly know. When people allow themselves to become vulnerable and talk about that shame, they no longer have to live in the darkness. They come out of the darkness and into the light. And that is where the healing truly begins. And that was a post that I put up yesterday. So shame, this is a timely discussion on shame. And I've seen it with a few clients lately, and I do a lot of work with men and mental health as well. And I'm currently working on a book about moments, light bulb moments that men have had, and in the aim to help men with mental health and to help them with shame. But I love being the person in someone's life that is, maybe they've never experienced not being judged before. I love being the person that can sit there and someone can feel safe. and know that they can open up about anything, and that after they've lifted that load, express their deepest, darkest secrets, that no matter what it is, that they're still loved and accepted. And I think that that's a real gift that we as professionals can give to another human being. Because shame comes from the fear of being judged and the feeling of being judged. And I think if any single one of us in this world, you know, we all have thoughts, you know, that we wish we didn't have. We've all done things that we wish we didn't have. Some people have made mistakes that have cost them a lot more than others. And some people have done things that they don't think that they can ever come back from. And I think that when we give people grace and a listening ear and no judgment, that gives them a key to a door to freedom, to know that they can walk back in a new door and they can start all over again.
Yeah, it's truly beautifully said. You know, as a therapist, when I worked in a clinic at an active caseload, I found that, you know, the secrets are what cause more pain and suffering than, well, that's what caused the pain and suffering, the secret. And it's like a kettle boiling up. And, you know, if you share your secret with someone, what happens? The steam comes out of the kettle, and it, you know, makes it feel a little less pressure. And so, you know, and I wish that people would understand that the most of the people in this world, if someone shares their most inner secret that they're shameful of, they're not going to be judged. It's great that's why helping professionals are so important, because, you know, hopefully if you're a good helping professional, you can listen to somebody without judgment. And like you said, it's extremely healing to be able to do that and realize, oh my God, I'm not stigmatized. I'm not looked at in a negative way. There's no judgment. It's healing for sure. But I believe that there are more people in this world that are like a therapist, that would listen to somebody if they took a chance, and a lot more people would feel better about themselves and have a little bit of a less pressured life if we could just get past the stigma and get past the shame. So I applaud your work. I think it's fantastic, and it's just fantastic. And you're helping so many people, and your books are amazing. Just to read people's stories, that the strength that people have to say, "Here's my story. Not only will I tell you, but now I want you to tell the world." That's something tremendous.
It truly
Thank
is.
you, Andrew. And in the mental health first aid course that I'm now training people in, so the whole idea with this is that people in our community, managers in the workplace, anyone can be aware of the signs that someone's struggling with mental health. Now, the top three issues here in Australia identified of mental health is: number one, anxiety disorders; two, depressive disorders; and three, substance abuse disorders. And when people are skilled up in how to recognise those signs, they can go and have those hard conversations you talked about before, yesterday, my hard day about reaching out. And I actually have a brother who's been sober in AA for almost about 35 years. And I always reach out to him, you know, because he's got he's a good listening board and got great advice. But these, if people in the community and the world can get trained up to recognise these signs that someone around them, you know, it could be a stranger in the park, is battling with a mental health issue, then we're able to intervene quickly and potentially save someone from taking their own life. But number two on the ALGE action plan is listen in a non-judgmental way. So that's the second action in this mental health first aid training that we teach people, about how to listen and give somebody a space to be able to be heard and get that stuff off their chest and get it out.
Yeah, it's a great curriculum. We have that here as well, and we've been trying to roll it out in schools. We've been trying to get schools to allow it to be taught in their health classes. You know, if you can get to people young and they can start feeling more comfortable with this, our younger generation is so much better than our generation. I mean, I believe they are. They're just so much more kind and open, and they seem that way to me. I mean, my children and their friends are just, they're just non-judgmental people. I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think you're onto something with the fact of that cohort is much more accepting.
Yeah.
You know, and that's very true. So, Curry, as we bring this to summary and turn it back to Alyssa, I know the question is, Alyssa's going to get your contact information, but how do people go about getting access to your books?
Well, they're on Kindle, so they just need to Google Stories of Hope Australia, Everyday People, Extraordinary Stories, or Stories of Hope Australia, Resilient People, Remarkable Stories, and it will take them straight to Kindle to get those books online. Or if they want the hard copies, obviously there's postage, but I can send in bundles on my website, www.storiesofhope.com.
Excellent.
The point that you make about
They do.
right
There.
there, right there.
Yeah, yeah. I've got about 4 email addresses. I get mixed up sometimes.
But the statement you made about what is it? Resiliency and what?
Resilient People, Remarkable Stories is the second book.
You know, because in recovery, I think we can all agree to this. There really is a strength, that strength of resiliency, of getting back up, you know, of moving forward, you know, and you know, as we've talked about offline and on, we all have stuff, you know, so it's not like you don't have ownership of stuff. We all have stuff. And then the question is getting back up and moving forward. So again, on behalf of all of us, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Andrew said, you know, it's great to have you back for the second time. Wait till we get, it's going to be like an iPhone. We'd like to thank you for coming back the 14th time, okay?
Oh, yay, I love you guys. I love it. I love these chats so much. And
that's great. And anything that we can do to help support your mission and effort, we're a phone call, an email away.
Thank you so much.
So thank you.
People need to read the stories in my book. They're real life. It's a manual of life-saving hope.
I love that.
Wow.
Life-saving hope, manual of life-saving hope.
Yeah,
love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Alyssa?
Mary, thank you so much for being our guest today. And thank you for reaching out and watching this. You've been listening to Intersections, Policy, Program, and Practice Exchange. And if you'd like to rewatch this program, share it with friends, or even comment on it, log on to our website, www.intersections-exchange.com. Until next time.